All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crew Show with a little 49er video. What free agent are the Niners most likely to pursue in March in the offseason? We'll talk about that. Really interesting article out on where the top 40 free agents are headed. We'll look at that in greater detail. And there's some surprises on this list involving the Niners, the Chiefs, as well as a couple of other interesting ones, predictions from around the NFL. We're, of course, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. In this video, also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, and they will match you up to your first $100. This week in Underdog, for the Super Bowl, I'm going Juwan Jennings, higher than 1.5 receptions. Travis Kelce, higher than a half of combined rushing or receiving touchdowns. So I believe Kelce will score a touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, higher than 25.5 rushing yards. I think he'll be flushed out and will run. I also think that I've got Brock Purdy at higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. So I think Purdy will have at least 2 passing touchdowns in Super Bowl 58. And I've got George Kittle higher than 4 receptions in Super Bowl 58. So there you go. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring our video. All right, let's talk a little bit about free agency. Now, there was an interesting article talking about where the top 40 free agents will land in March. It was written by 2 guys, Jason Frey and Harris Almadzai, and they did a nice job on this. And I thought there were some interesting ones here. First, we'll go with the non-49er or Chief free agents that are of interest. They say that the Rams are going to sign Derrick Henry to a 2-year, $22 million contract. Wouldn't that be interesting if suddenly Stafford, who already has Kyron Williams and Tyler Higbee and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, if they suddenly had a big power back to go with it, like Derrick Henry? I thought that one was kind of interesting. Another one that doesn't involve the Niners or the Chiefs. They say Philadelphia is going to sign Saquon Barkley, 1-year deal for $15 million. That's interesting. I really like Saquon Barkley, and he would be a nice fit in that Philly offense. Atlanta, they say, is going to sign Kirk Cousins, 3 years, $100 million. And they say Detroit is going to sign Danielle Hunter. Now, see, that would make Detroit a very scary team. If you've got Aiden Hutchinson on one side and Danielle Hunter on the other side, and they're saying Danielle Hunter is going to command 5 years and $140 million. So he's one of the top free agents. So now let's get to the ones involving the Niners and the Chiefs. We'll start with the Chiefs. They say the Chiefs are going to sign Marquise Hollywood Brown, the wide receiver, the former Arizona Cardinal, former Baltimore Raven. They're estimating that Hollywood Brown's he's only 26, by the way, is going to sign a 2-year, $18 million deal. So $9 million a year for Hollywood Brown. There's no question the Chiefs, after this year, could use some more wide receiver help. And Hollywood Brown's young, and he can run. And maybe he would give them kind of a poor man's version of Tyreek Hill, which they previously enjoyed. So that one I thought was kind of interesting. They also project the Chiefs to sign Austin Eckler. So Eckler, obviously the Chargers running back. The theory here is that, Mahomes needs a running back that he can throw the ball to. Man, if you had Pacheco and Austin Eckler, now Pacheco's not much of a receiver, and you do have Jerick McKinnon, but if you had Eckler, I mean, they're projecting a 2-year, $15 million deal that would make Eckler jump from the Chargers to the Chiefs. But I mean, if the Chiefs got next year Hollywood Brown and Austin Eckler in free agency, that would make them quite a bit better. There's no question about it. Now, but I don't know if they'll be better on the defensive side, because this article also projects L'Jarius Sneed, their number 1 corner, to jump to the Pittsburgh Steelers on a 3-year deal for $30 million. So they would lose their number 1 corner, but man, they would add a lot to their offense. And then they also have the Chiefs being very active in free agency, signing Calvin Ridley. So to a $20 million a year deal, a 3-year deal for $60 million. So how about that if the Chiefs were able to add Hollywood Brown, Calvin Ridley, and Austin Eckler? Their offense would be incredible. But they've now lost L'Jarius Sneed, and also the top free agent is Chris Jones, right? The Chiefs' awesome defensive tackle, a guy who's just every time he plays the Niners, he looks like a freaking Hall of Famer. He's just an amazing player. He's got a motor. He's angry. He's great against the run. He's great against the pass. You can play him at defensive tackle. You can play him at defensive end. This article says that the Houston Texans, D'Amico Ryans, will take Chris Jones away from Kansas City. 4 years, $115 million for him to jump to the Texans. Now that would shift the balance of power aggressively in the AFC. If suddenly Stroud, with all those weapons he has offensively, now had those incredible defensive end collection, really good young secondary, some outstanding linebackers, and they had Chris Jones to their front, Houston might be the chic Super Bowl pick next year if that actually happens. So just to refresh, they've got Chris Jones to the Texans, Danielle Hunter going to the Lions, Kirk Cousins going to the Falcons, 3 years, $100 million. Saquon Barkley going to the Eagles, Derrick Henry going to the Rams, Austin Eckler going to the Chiefs, L'Jarius Sneed going to the Steelers, Marquise Hollywood Brown going to the Chiefs. All right, how about the Niners? Because this is entitled 49er free agents. Well, they had the Niners tied to two names. One, they said that the Niners are going to re-sign Chase Young, which I got to be honest, at this point, if it based on, just what he's, how he's played and how he's contributed, I don't know if he fits their culture, to be honest. He was really jogging in the NFC title game, and it looked really bad. And to me, I have a hard time unseeing that. And I just think that they're saying that the Niners are going to re-sign Chase Young for 2 years and $25 million. Now, that would be a very reasonable cost, right? You're only paying him 12.5 a year for 2 years. So maybe that fits into their budget. Maybe the way he's played actually makes it more likely that he would return. That's an interesting one. If you said to me, bet one way or another, Chase Young comes back or Chase Young moves on, I would guess Chase Young moves on. But you never know. You never know. And when they traded for him, I was hoping they would sign him long term. Now, after watching him, I'm kind of hoping that they don't. But that's interesting that they say that Chase Young's coming back, 2 years, $25 million. The other name that they have linked to the 49ers is Lions guard Jonah Jackson. And they say that the Niners are going to sign Jonah Jackson to a 3-year deal for $39 million. Now, he's a relatively young player, but he's a guard. And I think that the 49ers, between Aaron Banks, and this year they had Feliciano, they like Spencer Burford. I don't know. I don't know. I could see if they're going to sign somebody, I could easily see them signing a tackle, because I think that's a greater need spot than guard. I don't see them going outside the organization for Jonah Jackson for 3 years and nearly $40 million, $13 million a year for Jonah Jackson to play guard. I don't think so. It just to me, it's like if the Niners are going O-line, it's probably going to be a tackle. So even though I think this is an interesting article and there's a number of interesting names, and man, the Chiefs would be a totally different team next year if you take away L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones, but then you give them an offense that already has Kelsey and Pacheco, and now they've got Hollywood Brown, Calvin Ridley, and Austin Eckler. In addition to that would be a bevy of offensive weapons for Kansas City. But would they be any good at all on defense without Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed? I mean, that's taking a major, major step backward defensively. So interesting list. I like some of those projections, but 3 years and $39 million for Jonah Jackson, I don't see that happening for the Niners. And re-signing Chase Young for 2 years and $25 million. The price is right, but I don't know. Based on what I've seen recently, I would say they're going to go in a different direction. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy as well for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.